As we await the results from the California recall, we do have some breaking news to share with you. Chilling new revelations about the top U.S. general's response to the peril posed by Donald Trump at the end of his presidency. After the January 6th insurrection, General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, took secret action to potentially limit then-President Trump's ability to order a nuclear strike or other military strike. He feared that the commander-in-chief was erratic and potentially would go rogue. This is one of the headlines from the new book, Peril, by Washington Post journalists Bob Woodward and Bob Costa. CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangel got an early copy of the book. Jamie, tell us about this early, this meeting that Milley had at the Pentagon.
So he is concerned about Trump. It's 2 days after January 6th, and these were precautions. He was trying to make sure the guardrails are in place, but it is an extraordinary meeting. He calls in the generals and the colonels who run the Pentagon War Room, and he says to them, according to the book, quote, "If you get calls, no matter who they're from, there's a process here, there's a procedure. No matter what you're told, you do the procedure. You do the process, and I'm part of that procedure." He wanted to make sure there were no dangerous or illegal orders. He's looking at Donald Trump. He's worried about January 6th. And he also knows that the Chinese have been rattled by Trump's behavior and by his failure to concede. And he is making sure every precaution is in place.
In the book, it speculates that this news might prompt some individuals to criticize Milley for suggesting that Milley overstepped his authority, that he was doing something that he doesn't have the right to do.
Correct. Some people may, but
Marco Rubio called for his resignation, I think.
I think there are going to be some politics involved here, and I don't think Marco Rubio has read the book yet. I would suggest people read the book and look at it in context. It is true that he is not, as chairman of the Joint Chiefs, in the chain of command. However, he is the most senior military official. He is the advisor to the president. He has tremendous authority. And what he was doing here was making sure the guardrails were up, that there wasn't some kind of accident. One senior Republican source said to me tonight, quote, "No one should be criticizing Milley. They all knew Trump was bonkers." That's a quote. Milley stood up and took precautions to make sure nothing dangerous or illegal happened. He was just making sure all the procedures and processes were followed.
And we should also note, this came after a conversation that General Milley had with Speaker Pelosi.
Correct.
Where Milley was saying there are guardrails. And
Right.
Pelosi was saying, guardrails? Look at what just happened with the riot on the Capitol that the president incited. Nobody was stopping President Trump from doing that. And that's what prompted Milley to do this.
100%. He knew China was rattled. He knew what he had seen on January 6th. But he had also now been through months, years of Trump's explosive behavior. And Woodward and Costa write that Milley was increasingly worried that Trump was, after the election, suffering serious mental decline, and that he was unpredictable and unstable.
The book also talks about then Vice President Mike Pence reaching out for advice on what to do in the House of Representatives on January 6th. Trump was suggesting that he had some sort of magic power to overturn the election, which he does not have. What does it say, the book?
So what the book recounts is a rather striking scene between Mike Pence, and he reaches out to former Vice President Dan Quayle. George H.W. Bush's vice president. Also from Indiana. And what's striking is that over and over, Mike Pence appears to be looking for a way to help Trump. We know that he got to the right place on the 6th. It may be because of Dan Quayle and this conversation. In the book, quote, Quayle says to Mike Pence, "Mike, you have no flexibility on this, none, zero, forget it, put it away." Pence comes back, "You don't know the position I'm in." Quayle cuts him off. "I do know the position you're in. I know what the law is. You listen to the parliamentarian. That's all you do. You have no power.
The wise words of former Vice President
Correct.
Dan Quayle: stick to the Constitution, Pence. And he did. Jamie Gangel, thanks so much. The polls close in California very soon. Stay with us for the very first votes that will indicate whether or not Governor Newsom stays or goes. We'll squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back.